I need space to figure things out, she said while keeping me as a backup option. I gave her all the space she wanted and more. Now that I've moved on completely, she's the one trying to reopen something I already closed. I just need space to figure things out. I remember setting my coffee mug down very slowly. Not because I was calm, because if I moved any faster, I was going to say something I couldn't take back. She said it like it was nothing. Like space was just a word. Like figure things out was a reasonable explanation for what she was actually doing, which was keeping one foot inside our relationship and one foot pointing at the door, waiting to see which direction felt more comfortable. I didn't say anything right away. I just looked at her, and I thought, not for the first time, that I had been here before. Not in this kitchen, not with this mug in my hand, but in this exact feeling. That particular brand of uncertainty where you love someone and they're standing right in front of you, and somehow you still feel completely alone. I didn't realize it then, but that moment, that quiet, coffee-going cold moment, was the beginning of the end, just not in the way she expected. If you enjoy real stories like this, subscribe, because what happened next changed everything for me. I was 28. She was 26. We had been together for 2 years and 4 months. I remember the 4 months specifically because she used to make fun of me for counting. "You count months like a teenager," she used to say, laughing. I used to laugh too. Her name was Claire. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue, which is the most unremarkable origin story in the world, except that when I first saw her, she was arguing passionately with someone about whether a hot dog was a sandwich, and I thought, I want to be in that argument. So I joined. We talked for 3 hours. I drove her home. She texted me before she even got inside her apartment. That was us, in the beginning. That was the version of us I held on to for longer than I should have. The space conversation didn't come out of nowhere. Looking back, I can trace the exact trail of breadcrumbs that led there. But at the time I was busy picking them up one by one and making excuses for each one individually, instead of stepping back and seeing the whole picture. The first breadcrumb was about 6 months before she asked for space. We had plans. Real plans, not vague someday plans, but actual, calendared, discussed plans. She was going to move into my apartment at the end of that year. We had already talked about how we'd rearrange the furniture. She wanted to paint the bedroom wall a dark green. I said fine. I would have said fine to anything. And then one evening, a Tuesday, I think, just a regular Tuesday, she mentioned, almost as an aside, that she had renewed her lease. Just mentioned it, like it was a weather update. Oh, I renewed my lease. I remember looking up from my phone. You renewed your lease? Yeah, just for another 6 months. Nothing crazy. I asked her why. She said she just wasn't ready. She said it too quickly, like the answer had been prepared. And I should have asked more questions. I should have said, ready for what specifically? Ready for the next step? Ready for me? But I didn't, because I was 28 and I loved her, and I was terrified that asking the real question would give her permission to say the real answer. So I nodded. I said okay, and I told myself that 6 months was nothing. That was breadcrumb number 1. Breadcrumb number 2 was a guy named Foster. Foster was someone she worked with. She mentioned him casually at first, the way you mention anyone from your office. Foster said the funniest thing today. Foster recommended this restaurant. Foster and I grabbed lunch. I wasn't jealous. I want to be clear about that, because jealousy would have been easier to deal with. What I felt was something subtler and more corrosive. I felt like I was being told something without being told anything. Like there was a message encoded in the frequency of the name. I mentioned it once. Just once. I said, "You talk about Foster a lot." She rolled her eyes. "He's just a friend." "I know. I'm just saying you mention him a lot. Would you prefer I not talk about my friends?" And that was the end of that conversation, because she had turned it into a question about my security rather than a question about her behavior. And I was 28 and I loved her, and I didn't want to be the insecure guy. So I dropped it. Breadcrumb number 2. Breadcrumb number 3 was the texting. Not that she stopped texting me. She didn't. She just started responding slower. And when she did respond, it was shorter, less specific. "Yeah, sounds good." "Huh. Busy today, talk later." I'm not someone who needs constant validation through a phone screen. But there's a difference between someone who doesn't text much and someone who used to text you paragraphs about nothing, about a weird dream she had, about a documentary she half-watched, about a song lyric that reminded her of you, and then one day just stopped. The content changed. The warmth left the words. I noticed. I said nothing. Breadcrumb number 3. The fourth breadcrumb was the night she canceled on me 3 times in 2 weeks. Once because she was tired. Once because her friend was going through something. Once because she just needed a night to herself. Each reason was valid in isolation. But together they told a story. A story I wasn't ready to read yet. And then came the Tuesday. A different Tuesday, because apparently all the worst moments of my life happen on Tuesdays, when she sat down across from me at the kitchen table and said those words. I just need space to figure things out. I asked her what she needed to figure out. She said she wasn't sure. I asked if she wanted to break up. She said no. She said she just needed some room to breathe. Some time to herself. She wasn't asking to end things, just to slow down. I still love you, she said. And I believed her. I think that was the most damaging part. I actually believed her. So I gave her space. Not passive-aggressive space. Not space designed to punish. Genuine, respectful, no-pressure space. I stopped texting first. I stopped making plans. I didn't show up. I didn't call late at night. I redirected every instinct I had to reach out, and I swallowed it. The first week was quiet. The second week, she texted me twice. Once to say she missed me, once to share a meme about something we both hated. I responded warmly, but I didn't chase. The third week, she called me. We talked for 40 minutes about everything except what was actually happening between us. I let it happen. I was patient. I told myself that this was what love looked like. Not grasping, not demanding, but trusting. The fourth week, she made plans with me. Dinner. It felt good. She was warm. She was funny. She was everything that made me fall in love with her in the first place. I thought, okay, we're coming back from this. Whatever this was, we're finding our way back. And then she canceled. The night before dinner. Via text. Hey, something came up. Can we reschedule? I stared at that message for a long time. Something came up. After a month of space. After 40 minutes on the phone. After she made the plan. Something came up. I typed out 3 different responses and deleted all of them. I landed on, sure, no rush. She sent back a heart emoji. A single, solitary heart emoji. And I, fool that I was, kept it together for another week. I should tell you what I found out later. Not from her. From a mutual friend who clearly didn't know she was telling me anything significant. This friend, her name was Bex, she was Claire's college roommate. She's relevant. Mentioned casually over drinks one evening that Claire and Foster had gone hiking together that weekend. Just the two of them. Bex mentioned it the way you mention something you assume is common knowledge. She must have seen something shift in my face because she stopped mid-sentence and said, "Oh, did you not know that?" I kept my expression neutral. "No, I knew," I said. "I did not know that." I want to be precise about what I did next. I did not confront Claire. I did not call her out. I did not send a long message. I sat with that information for 3 days, and I thought very carefully about what it meant. She had asked me for space to figure things out. She was spending that space hiking with another man. She had not broken up with me. She had not committed to me. She had placed me in a holding pattern while she ran a parallel experiment. She was keeping her options warm. And I was so committed to being understanding, so determined to be the patient, non-controlling, emotionally evolved boyfriend, that I had essentially handed her a permission slip to do exactly that. I had made it easy. I had made it comfortable. I had made it cost her nothing. That was the moment everything changed. Not in a dramatic way. There were no fireworks. There was no confrontation scene. I just made a quiet, private, completely internal decision. I decided to stop waiting. I want to be clear. I didn't do this out of revenge. I didn't start living my life to make her jealous or to prove a point. I did it because I looked at myself honestly for the first time in months, and I didn't like what I saw. I saw a man who had been shrinking himself to fit inside someone else's uncertainty. I saw a man who had been available on demand while being treated as optional. I saw a man who was so afraid of losing someone that he had already lost himself. And I was done with that version of me. So I filled the space. I started saying yes to things I had been putting off. An old friend had been asking me to join his recreational basketball league for 2 years. I joined. I started going to the gym at 6 a.m., which sounds like a cliche, but genuinely changed the architecture of my days. I took a solo weekend trip to a cabin 3 hours from home, somewhere I had bookmarked 2 years ago and never visited because I was always waiting for the right time to go with Claire. I went alone. It was extraordinary. There's something about being alone in a quiet place. Actually alone, no phone signal, no obligations, that rearranges your interior furniture. I came back from that weekend feeling like a different person. Not healed, not over it, but oriented differently. Like I had finally turned to face the right direction. It was around week 6 of this space arrangement that Claire called me on a Thursday afternoon. Hey, can we talk? Sure. Like, in person. Can I come over tonight? I said yes. She came over at 7. She sat on my couch and she looked at me with this expression I had seen before, soft, a little guilty, carefully arranged. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she said. I can tell. I think I was going through something. A phase. And I put it on us instead of dealing with it myself. I waited. I miss you, she said. I miss what we have. Silence. I want to try again. Properly. I want to stop doing this. The pushing away, the back and forth. I want to actually commit. I looked at her for a moment. And I thought, 6 weeks ago, those words would have been everything I needed to hear. 6 weeks ago, I would have been across the couch before she finished the sentence. But something had shifted in me during that cabin weekend. During those 6 a.m. gym sessions. During the basketball games where I laughed until my ribs ached. During the long drives with music I liked and no one to negotiate with. I had discovered, slowly and unexpectedly, that I was okay. Not just surviving. Actually okay. And I want to try again, as genuine as it may have been, was asking me to walk back to a place I had already left. I said, I don't think that's something I can do right now. She blinked. What do you mean? I mean, I've been doing my own thinking, and I think I needed this time as much as you did. Maybe more. So you want more time? No, I said. I think I'm just in a different place now. She stared at me. Are you breaking up with me? I think we already broke up, I said. I think the space was a breakup that neither of us named. She was quiet for a long moment. I didn't mean it that way. I know, but that's what it became. She left that night, still looking stunned. Like she had come to collect something and found an empty shelf. The weeks after that were not clean or simple. Breaking up? Even a retroactive, mutually arrived at, nobody's officially the villain kind of breakup, is not clean or simple. It takes up space in your chest whether you want it to or not. I still thought about her. Not constantly, but the way you think about a song that's been stuck in your head for years, occasionally, without warning, triggered by nothing. I saw her twice at mutual events. Both times I was polite and warm and brief. Both times she watched me in a way I recognized. The same way you look at something you used to own. 3 months after the breakup, the actual, named, official version, I met someone. Her name was Ren. She was a graphic designer. She had a small scar above her left eyebrow from falling off a bicycle at age 9. And for some reason that scar made her face the most trustworthy face I had ever seen. We met at a gallery opening that I almost didn't go to. I'm not even someone who goes to gallery openings. But a coworker had an extra ticket, and I said yes because I was still in my era of saying yes to things. Rin was standing alone in front of a painting that looked, honestly, like someone had poured sadness onto a canvas and then tried to scrub it off. I stood next to her. Does this painting make you feel anything? I asked. She thought about it seriously. It makes me feel like whoever made it finally stopped pretending something was fine. I looked at her. Yeah, I said. That's exactly it. We talked for 2 hours. She was sharp and strange and laughed at her own jokes before she finished telling them. She was nothing like Claire. She was also, very specifically, exactly what I didn't know I was looking for. I want to be honest about where I was emotionally when Rin and I started spending time together. I wasn't fully healed. You're never fully healed when you meet someone new. Anyone who tells you they were completely over their last relationship when they met their current one is either lying or has a very short memory. But I was healthy enough. I was no longer operating from a wounded place. I was no longer making decisions based on fear of loss. I was choosing something, not running from something. That distinction mattered to me. Ren and I took it slow. We didn't rush into labeling anything. We just spent time together, dinners, long walks, afternoons at her studio where she worked and I read, and we didn't feel the need to fill every silence. The silences were comfortable. That was new for me. With Claire, silences had always felt like negotiations. Like each of us was waiting for the other person to break first. With Ren, a silence was just a silence. It was just two people existing near each other without performing. About 6 weeks into spending time with Ren, I got a text from Claire. Hey, how are you? I stared at it for a moment. Good. I typed back. You? I'm okay. I've been thinking about you lately. I didn't respond to that last part. She sent another message an hour later. Do you think we could grab coffee sometime? Just to talk. I thought about it. I genuinely thought about it. Not as a romantic possibility, but as a logistical reality. What would that coffee actually be? What did either of us have to gain? I typed, I don't think that's a good idea right now. I hope you're well, Claire. She didn't respond for 2 days. Then, okay, I understand. I left it there. 2 months later, 8 months total since the space conversation, 5 months since the official breakup, Bex texted me. Bex and I had always been friendly in that way where you're not actual friends, but you're friendly enough that texting doesn't feel weird. She said, "Hey, random question. Are you seeing someone?" I said, "Why?" She said, "Claire mentioned she reached out to you, and you didn't really respond. She seems like she's going through it." I thought about how to reply. "Bex," I typed, "I'm seeing someone, and I think it would be better for everyone if Claire and I don't reconnect right now." "Oh," she said. "Wow. Yeah. She's going to be upset." "I know. I'm sorry about that." And I genuinely was. Not guilty, not responsible, but sorry. There's a difference. The thing about the Foster situation, because I have to address it properly, is that it resolved itself without my involvement. I found out about 6 months after the breakup, through the same Bex who apparently had no internal filter, that whatever had been happening between Claire and Foster while she was figuring things out had not worked out the way she imagined. Bex relayed this information without editorializing too much, but the impression I got was that Foster had never seen Claire as anything more than what she was, a coworker he liked spending time with. The thing Claire had been holding open as an alternative option hadn't been a real option at all. She had risked a real relationship for something that existed primarily in her own uncertainty. I didn't feel satisfaction about that. I want to be clear. It didn't make me feel vindicated or good or like some kind of cosmic score had been settled. It just made me sad. For her. For the 2 years we had. For the version of us that could have been, if either of us had been braver earlier. Ren and I became official about 4 months after the gallery. There was no ceremony to it. We were on her couch one Sunday, watching something neither of us was really watching, and she said, "Are we doing this?" And I said, "Yeah, I think we are." She laughed. "We're disgustingly functional." We really are. She was right. We were functional. Not perfectly, not without friction, but functional in the way that actually matters. In the way where two people decide to be honest with each other even when it's inconvenient, and trust each other enough to not need constant reassurance. I had not had that before. I hadn't known what I was missing. The moment that crystallized everything, the moment that this whole story has been building toward, came about 9 months after the breakup. 10 months after the space conversation. I was at dinner with Ren at a restaurant we liked. It was a Wednesday night. We were halfway through our food when my phone buzzed. Claire's name. A phone call. I let it go to voicemail. It buzzed again 5 minutes later. A text this time. "I know this is out of nowhere. I need to talk to you. Please call me when you can." Ren noticed me looking at my phone. "Everything okay?" "Yeah." Old chapter trying to open itself back up. She looked at me for a second. "Do you need to deal with it?" "Not tonight." She nodded and went back to her food. No interrogation. No tension. Just trust. I thought this is the thing. This is what it's supposed to feel like. I called Claire back the next morning. I figured she deserved that much. She picked up on the second ring. Hey, you called." "Yeah. Sorry. I know it's been a while." "It's okay. What's going on?" A pause. "I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. About us. About what I did. About what I threw away. I waited. I think I made a mistake. A really significant one. And I know it's probably too late. But I could not say it." "Okay," I said. "That's all you're going to say? What would you like me to say?" Another pause. "I guess I was hoping you'd tell me it's not too late." I sat with that for a moment. I thought about the kitchen and the cold coffee. I thought about 6 weeks of space and a single heart emoji. I thought about hiking trips I wasn't told about. I thought about a cabin with no phone signal and the particular clarity of a long, quiet weekend alone. I thought about a gallery and a painting that looked like someone had tried to scrub sadness off a canvas. I thought about a Sunday on a couch and a woman who said, "Are we doing this?" and meant it completely. "Claire," I said, "I'm with someone. And I'm happy. Actually happy. Not managing. Not enduring. Not waiting for things to get better. Happy." Silence. "I hope you find that too. I really do. You deserve it." "So that's it." "That's it." She didn't say anything for a moment. Then, "She's lucky. So am I." And that was the last conversation we ever had. I've thought about why I'm telling this story. Not for sympathy. Not to make Claire look like a villain. She wasn't. She was a person who was confused and scared and made selfish choices while trying to figure herself out, which is an extremely human thing to be and do. What I am is older and clearer, and I understand now what I didn't understand then. Here is the thing about being someone's backup option. It doesn't feel like being a backup option. It feels like patience. It feels like love. It feels like being understanding, evolved, emotionally mature. It feels like giving someone the grace they need to figure things out. And all of those things can be real, the patience, the love, the generosity, and still be wrong, still be harmful to you, still be a mistake. Because there's a version of patience that is actually self-abandonment dressed in a kinder name. And there's a version of understanding that is actually just fear. Fear of losing someone, fear of asking for what you need, fear of being the one who draws the line. I was terrified of being difficult, so I made it extraordinarily easy. Easy to string along, easy to keep warm on a back burner, easy to come back to when the other option didn't pan out. And the only reason I got out of that dynamic, the only reason things changed, is because I eventually gave her exactly what she asked for. All the space. All of it. Because here is what actually happens when you give someone all the space they want. One of two things. Either they use that space to realize they need to come back, in which case you have proof that what you had was worth fighting for. Or they use that space and don't come back, in which case you have proof that what they needed was exactly that, to leave. In both cases, the truth is revealed. In both cases, you have your answer. The problem is that most people in my position, waiting patiently in the holding pattern, are not actually giving space. They're giving conditional space. Space with an implied return address. Space that comes with a subtle expectation of reciprocation. Space that requires the other person to eventually show up with an acceptable explanation and a willingness to continue. That's not space. That's a leash with extra slack. Real space means genuinely releasing the outcome. It means deciding that whether they come back or don't, you will be okay. And the only way to actually get to that place, where you believe it, not just say it, is to actually start living like it's true. I started living like it was true at week 4. When I went to the cabin alone. When I drove 3 hours by myself and didn't tell anyone where I was going. When I sat on a wooden deck in cold air and ate a sandwich and thought, I could live like this. Not alone forever. Not without love. But without the specific, suffocating anxiety of waiting for someone to choose me. That moment was the pivot. Everything after that was a consequence of that pivot. I don't want to over-romanticize Ren. She's not a symbol. She's not a reward. She's not the universe's way of telling me I made the right decision. She's a person. A specific, particular, irreplaceable person who laughed at her own jokes and had a scar above her left eyebrow and stood alone in front of a sad painting and said the truest thing about it. She came into my life not because I had healed completely or leveled up emotionally or figured out everything. She came in because I had cleared enough space in myself to actually see her. That's what all of this was about. Not about Claire. Not about space or ultimatums or being right. It was about clearing enough of myself out to have room for something real. Claire's phone call, the last one, happened on a Thursday morning. By Thursday evening, I was back at Ren's studio. She was working on something at her desk. I sat on the worn leather sofa she kept in the corner. The studio smelled like paper and turpentine and whatever tea she kept on constantly. You seem lighter, she said without looking up from her work. I had a conversation I should have had a long time ago. You closed something? I closed something. She looked up then. She studied me for a moment. Then she went back to her work. Good, she said. That was it. No drama. No ceremony. No dissecting or debriefing. Just good. I sat on that sofa for another hour while she worked. The tea kettle clicked. The traffic moved outside the window. She was humming something quietly. I didn't recognize the song. I didn't need to. There's a version of this story where I'm bitter, where every sentence is quietly dipped in resentment, where Claire is a villain and I am a wounded hero, and the story is about how I got my revenge by being happy. That version is easy to tell. People love that version, but it's not the true one. The true one is messier and less satisfying and more real. The true one is about a man who loved someone and was afraid of losing her and made himself smaller and quieter and more accommodating because he believed, somewhere underneath all the patient, evolved boyfriend performance, that if he just held on long enough and carefully enough, she would realize what she had. That's not a villain story. That's a human one. That's the story of most of the people sitting at home reading these things on their phones, waiting for someone to text back, waiting for someone to choose them, holding on to something they've already half lost. What I know now that I didn't know then. The moment someone asks for space, your job is not to wait. Your job is to figure out who you are without the waiting. Because the waiting is the thing that hollows you out. Not the loss, not the breakup, not the silence. The waiting, the sustained, deliberate, hopeful waiting. That is the thing that costs you something. And the only answer to waiting is to stop. Not dramatically, not with a speech or a door slam. Just quietly, just internally, just a decision to start living forward instead of staying still. Claire's last text to me, after the phone call, a few hours later, said, "I hope she knows what she has." I read it. I smiled a little. I put my phone face down on the coffee table, and I went back to my evening. 9 months after that phone call, Ren and I were at a farmer's market on a Saturday morning. She was deliberating for an unreasonable amount of time between two types of honey. She does this, becomes completely absorbed by small decisions. I find it one of the most endearing things I have ever witnessed. "They're both honey," I said. "They're not both honey. One is clover and one is wildflower. They taste completely different. You make everything complicated. You like it." She was right. I did. She picked the wildflower. We walked home in the kind of morning light that makes everything look like a photograph of itself. She was talking about a project she was working on. I was half listening and half just being there. Just being there was something I was learning to appreciate. Being somewhere fully without waiting for something to go wrong. Without holding my breath. Without measuring the warmth in someone's voice to calculate whether they still wanted me around. Just here. Present. Chosen. I think about the kitchen sometimes. The cold coffee. The Tuesday light coming through the window. Her voice saying, "I just need space to figure things out." I think about how devastated that sentence made me feel. How I sat with it like a stone in my chest for weeks. How I built my entire emotional strategy around it. How I was so careful and so patient and so willing to wait. And I think, I'm glad she said it. Not because it led to Ren, although it did. Not because it led to anything specific, but because it forced me to answer a question I had been avoiding for a long time. A question I had been too comfortable and too afraid to answer. That question was, without her, who are you? And the answer, it turned out, was someone worth coming back to. Someone worth being. Someone I hadn't let myself be in a long time. I gave her all the space she wanted. I just didn't save any for myself. Until I did. And then there was no going back to a smaller version of that. No going back at all. She wanted space to figure things out. I found out I didn't need her to figure out mine.